The Anglian confusion. The Anglian confusion is a term that I coined to really focus on the term angel and angles in general in Old English and how to refer to them, as well as their land and this and that. So let's get right into it. So we have our word here, angel, and this is in reference to the land from whence the Angles came from, because we got to bear in mind that at this time, the way countries were referred to is the name of the people. I'll make up an example like today. Instead of Canada, it would be the Canadians, or Canadians would be the name of the country instead of Canada, if that makes sense. But that was a normal thing at this time. So, but interestingly enough, we do have the name of the land from whence the Angles came from, which is Angel. What was known then was in Germania. So anyway, so we have Angel here, and we have the inflected form here, anglais, in the accusative, genitive, and dative, and it's a feminine noun, interestingly enough. But moving on to its attestations, we only have the inflected forms here, which is interesting of itself. We don't have the nominative form, despite the fact that the thing is, with the second attestation here, it's really interesting because normally when you use the verb haton, like to call something, normally the thing what you're calling, you put that in the nominative, but there are instances where it would be in the accusative, but this would vary from scribe to scribe and or what have you. So even people roughly 1500 years ago made mistakes too. But we also got to bear in mind of other influences within the language, because like I said before, the names of countries was also the name of people, because the term anglais is also the of the I stem form, but we'll get into that in a bit. So to make things simpler, so for the name of the country, the name of the land, if you will, in Germania, Angel. So this is a feminine noun and it's strong. You have Angel, Anglais, Anglais, Anglais. And for those of you who don't know, even within strong nouns, strong feminine nouns, there can be variation. Like for example, we have bulk in Old English, which is the origin of the word book, which can also its inflected form can also be bulk as well as for the accusative, because we have to bear in mind something called analogy. An analogy in a nutshell is where one aspect within the same language, its forms influence another aspect of the language. You could argue that this is simplification, but this would vary from place to place, time to time, person to person. So right here we have the country Angel and its inflected forms Anglais. Let's move on. So here we have Anglais, but this is different. So that final E there, that's a part of the I stem, right? So this would be the masculine, and this is a plural noun. So this is saying, this is if you want to be very literal about it, this is angles, or the angles. This is the accusative and nominative, so the angles. Then we have angla, which is the genitive, possessive, and then we have the dative. So anglum would be the dative. So moving right on. So here we have, like as I said before, the way they would name countries would be the name of the people that lives there, or depending on the context or what have you. So that land tatte Angle havdon. So that land that the Angles formerly had. So Angle, Anglum in the second attestation, and then we have Anglum again in the third attestation here. So yeah, so that's something to bear in mind. But it's interesting how just to go back here, how I mean, it's interesting to look at this angel, because you can argue that, oh well, there must be a case of metathesis, because the e flipped over to the other side, if you will, or that there are forms out there with the e between the g and the l, but due to circumstance, we don't have it. But arguably, this is based off of the Latin angli, which would make sense. And so the I to the E would be a vowel change, because it's tempting to think that that angel is the original form, when really we have the Latin angli, from the Latin. So that's something to bear in mind. Or another way to look at this, to explain the E between the G and the L, is something called in linguistics a Svarabhakti vowel, where in some cases where vowels will be added in to make the word easier to say, to make it more syllabic, if you will. So there's that, and then we're going to move on to, okay, so this is I stem form, the anglais, or the angles, if you will. So we got anglais, anglais, angla, and then anglum. So this is a masculine noun, and this is all plural, all plural. That's something to bear in mind. But if we were to make things more interesting, we have, oh, right, we got to bear in mind something. This is strong. Yeah, this is strong. Well, we have Englan. So the interesting thing about the word Angli, the Latin, and then Englan. So with a lot of words in Latin, when they made their way into Old English in some shape or form, when you have the an combination, the a would become an e in later, in later history. But that isn't always the case. There are instances where it's not always an e, because we can't expect that this change happened everywhere at the same time. We got to bear in mind, this is not a standardized language. We have this weak form. We have this weak masculine form. So we got Englan and its genitive Englana, and then Englum, and the accusative form would be Englan, and its nominative form would be Englan as well. So that's really interesting. So I have here fleshed out and reconstructed the weak form of Anglan, or Englan, if you will. I mean, of course, I'm using an older spelling with the A there, but if we were to reconstruct it in full, because all we have is the attested plural, but I also have here reconstructed the singular. So if you want to say one angle, it'd be angla, would be a masculine, and then anglais would be the neuter and feminine form, singular, and then we have anglan would be the accusative, singular, and inflected. So for all three grammatical genders. But then we have this interesting thing called a prefix, and then we have the adjective, which we have angel as the prefix, and we got Englisc for the adjective. But could there be possibly an Englisc? Possibly, due to analogy. It may not be recorded, but it wouldn't be a stretch to think that someone would think this, or write this, or sing this, or what have you, or conceive of it in some shape or form. But let's move on. So we have the name of the country, or the nation, if you will, the Angles. We have plenty of forms here. We've got Angel, which is, an Anglian, and then we got Anglais, which is the Angles, the I stem, and then we have the masculine weak declension, Englan, which is basically three ways to say the country, or, well, I mean, if you want to be very literal about it, like two ways to say the name of the people, which is interesting of itself. And that's it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe. And if you really like the channel, please become a channel member. All right, now, see ya.